Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
He is one of the most amazing architects in the biggest city in the world. And he's with us today. We've talked about architecture before, but I come to find out that John Riggio also was a tennis pro back in the day before he became an architect. And the stories go on and on, just amazing stuff with some of the best players in tennis history. And we're going to talk about some more of that. John is back. Hey, John.
Good. Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well. And just the things I learned, and I shared last time that the names that you mentioned are names in the tennis world that I remember back in the day. I mean, these are the best of the best of the best. Such supreme athletes, but you were up there right there with them, playing tennis with them as a pro back in the day. Let's talk about the U.S. Tennis Center. Why don't we start there?
Yes. So I talked about how I had Court 33 at the U.S. Tennis Center. And there was one player that probably a lot of people recognize. His name was Vitas Gerulaitis. And he was really a captain of the pro players and used to organize a lot of the games. It would come down the chain of command from the administration to the coach and go to Vitas. And while I was there, I was on Court 3 so many hours that I really became like an employee of the ATP and the tennis center. And they used to credit like a salary for my work there. And what was happening is during 1987, is particularly on Court 33, I started to do some things for them, and I was testing new players because with the pro circuit, a lot of people are submitting requests for a player that they have that's a really excellent player. And they have a list of players that want to see if they can really make it in the pros. I think of these players, there's like the number one ITF player, the number one U.S. collegiate player, other people that maybe their coaches and sponsors are pointing out can really play good tennis. So what was happening is they were bringing these players over to me on Court 33. And in the extra hours that I was there playing, I was also playing matches against these players. And these are players coming in that were really like a number one player in their own group. So it was very good. I played them. And after I played them, would talk to Vitas and give them my comments about their playing and see if maybe they can make it in as a pro. And what happened was I played all these players and I didn't lose any match to them, which is really amazing. And but I did recommend some of them. And
can I just better understand? Was your job at that point to kind of vet the players out? Just, kind of go through them and see which one has potential to go to the next level?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
you were like the screener. You were screening the players to see what they had to offer.
Yeah, that's right. I had to really see if they could play really good, if they had potential to really play at the pro level. And even though none of them were able to beat me, which is good, I was able to comment on them, help a couple of them advance. They were given some more games playing in the ATP tour for maybe like a week or two. And then so overall their experience there, it wasn't a bad experience. I think if you ever hear a pro player say that they went to go to play in a tryout or get a chance to make the pros type of thing, that's really what they were doing. So they were getting a really good opportunity. They could put it on their resume. And even if they didn't make it there, they could always go to another camp. Maybe they can improve their abilities. Maybe in 6 months they could improve their abilities, come back, play in the same pro circuit, play someplace else. So it wasn't a waste of money. There was some serious money involved with these games. It was like usually it was maybe like $20,000.
Even as a player, an up and coming player, just to get to that level where they are playing with you, somebody who's played with pros, who was asked by pros to, check these guys out, see what they got. That's pretty phenomenal for those players.
Yes, as far as the money is concerned, I was not involved with any of the money at all. That, of course, is part of the sponsors and things like that. And but there wasn't always an idea that there was great value in the games playing there. Some of them got to play maybe another 2 weeks. I think when I was there, I don't think any of them really were able to make it too far. That's just an example of how difficult the playing was. It's very difficult. It could take years to really move up through the ranking numbers and make it in the pros. So we gave them a fair chance to play, and of course it wasn't a waste of time, but it was just very interesting. And with that, at the same time, my Ali Pond bubble opened, so I was playing at both courts. So I was teaching at the other court, and that is the same situation. I was really like an employee. The money was getting credited to my account, and I would teach players, and my lessons were valued very high. Each lesson might go maybe, just to give you an idea, $15,000 for a lesson that I would teach them. And I
Okay,
think
now, wait,
just as an
press pause right there. We're talking the mid to late 80s. 15K is
yes,
a lot more back then. 15K now for that, a lesson is huge. But even thinking then, that like a ton of money. Wow, John.
it was serious professional tennis.
Oh
And
my
from
gosh.
this, my student would take this and they would go play a pro tournament. And when I was there, one of my students won the tournament. So that tournament could equal a lot of money. It could equal $500,000. So the amount of money of learning some advanced skills and then applying them and winning a tournament could be very profitable for them. Be well worth the money. And that's really that's why it was a high level playing. I was told that teaching there was really like equivalent to like a Harvard professor. It was really a top job. Everything was very expensive, and of course they had built that whole tennis center for me because I was winning so excellently in the course. And then I was just had to remember at that Ali Pond, I did win additional 5 for my own tournaments playing, and so that was very good. And then I remember there playing. It was one very interesting thing. I remember one player really didn't want to play pro tennis. For some reason he didn't like playing pro tennis, and then I did help him out a little. From playing the pro tennis, I knew other pro sport players, and from talking to him, he was able to get into playing professional baseball. And I was watching the television one day, and I see him there at bat. He was at bat playing. So he was able to make it. Was able to get some playing as a pro baseball player. So that was very interesting. So he had great abilities to play tennis and professional baseball. So he had the ability to play 2 sports.
John, that being said, I mean, you were accomplished tennis player. If you had to pick another sport that you would be interested in, or maybe you thought you were good at or messed around with, was there one? Or tennis was it?
Really, gymnastics was my really number one thing. And the thing about gymnastics was similar to tennis. They took the test and they could tell that I could win like a gold medal in the Olympics playing gymnastics. I mean, so that was really why gymnastics was really my next sport that I could really play at a high level. That was really the next sport I could play.
Mm. With the tennis center, wasn't there at one point where it was closed and then your fans rallied to get it open again?
Yes, what happened is after Ali Pond, I was at the Sutton East, and the Sutton East, of course, was an excellent location. And this was around 1988. And what happened in 1988 is, unfortunately, one of my sponsors, their son, unexpectedly passed on, died, Carter Cooper. And he died there. But what happened was, so I went to the tennis center there in the morning as usual. It was like a job. I had a planned schedule, and I see there's a piece of paper on the door that it is closed. It is closed. There's unexpected personal problem took place. So I went home, and I just eventually received a phone call of what happened. So the tennis center was shut down for a while. But what happened was, since I had such a nice group of fans that used to come there every day, They used to watch me play tennis and were rooting me on. They all got together and they were able to get a representative, and he gave me a phone call and he kept the tennis playing going. He called the tennis center. So I was able to continue playing official pro matches, and the matches weren't at the bubble anymore. So this was like an emergency situation. What they did was this representative was able to set up matches in different areas in Long Island and New York City. So I was really on the road all of a sudden. I was playing at different court locations, and he would show up at every one of the matches, and I played the matches. And from what I remember, I didn't really lose any matches. I remember there was one funny thing. One they didn't want to show up, and they wanted me to, for some reason, say I lost the match without playing one. I mean, that was one really strange thing that took place, and I wouldn't do it. I would not. I would
Why?
not.
Why
I
would
would
they?
not say that I lost a match without playing the match at all. I mean, this was really unbelievable.
Why would they want to do that? Why would they ask you to do that?
I don't know. Maybe they wanted me to do that, like to step down one time, and then from there maybe I would go up, further. I don't know what the reasoning was. I don't even know who the opponent was they wanted me to say I lost to. It was very strange. And that happened, and but I won all the matches. I think in that set, I remember one of the last matches I played Patrick McEnroe, and I was able to beat him. I beat him like 6-0, 0. I mean, that was
So
I
hold on.
was able to really to just go right through that match, and I won. I was still playing excellent, so everything was
You
going
said
great.
Patrick? Did I hear you right? Patrick McEnroe?
Yes, yes.
You're
They
like
have like John McEnroe. It's Patrick McEnroe.
two different, not related?
I think they do say they are brothers.
Okay. Didn't know. All right. Wow.
And yes, so that was one of the last games, and then after that, later, I received a call from my sponsor from the Sutton East, and playing was able to resume in by the next fall. By September, I was able to start playing back there again. So things were okay, and I'm ready to play the next season going into '89, and so everything was okay. But so during that shutdown period, my fans really came through, and I was able to continue playing tennis, and they were really happy about it. And my percentage of playing was still the same, winning really excellent, and it was good. And I was on the road, so it was a different experience. I played at all different locations, and that was a different experience. It was pretty good. I think it showed that I could easily play on the road without any problem with some support. Someone setting everything up, coming there, watching everything, videotaping. All my matches were videotaped, and so everything was working wonderful like that. So the idea of going on the road it was a full possibility to do that. It was working good. I was winning, and everything was working good with that.
That's got to feel good. By the way, we're talking with New York City area architect John Riggio about his tennis career. Yes, he's an architect, but he played tennis before that back in the day. John, that had to feel great. Here they close a stadium, and you're not playing there anymore. And then they turn around and say, "Yeah, we want him back. Bring him back." That had to be so gratifying that that you have these people that are on your side.
Yeah, my fans, they all love me. They really were doing great coming there, watching me play, that they were able to really come through and continue my playing like that.
Hmm. What
And
about
that was really amazing.
what
So there
about
was one thing that happened at the Sun Niche that I wanted to add was
Sure.
I had described that John McEnroe, who of course was sponsored by the same pro shop who owned by Patrick Mulrooney. He visited the Sutton East, and he had made an appointment. I wasn't there. I had nothing to do with the appointment. I didn't know what it was all about. But like the next week, they told me that he had showed up, and there was some outrage there. And what happened was they talked to me about John McEnroe and asked me what his story is, and I had to describe the whole story. They really didn't know the whole story about how we had the same sponsor and that he was involved with supporting my tennis too. he liked supporting my tennis. He was benefiting from it. And so from that conversation and with my approval, they were able to take John McEnroe and they put him back on as one of my sponsors. What they did was they made additional shares of my sponsorship. So my sponsorship was expanding. So it was, they had the main sponsors and they had people who still wanted to help me. And they offered him some shares of my sponsorship. So he was officially back on before, because in 1987, with the pro shop owner retiring, the official sponsorship was really ended. But now he was back on. So with my help, he's back on. They offered him shares, and he could profit from my playing. And that was in like early 1988. So that was really before all the big tournaments got going, where I was winning all of them. I think one of them was the Manhattan Open, and the Manhattan Open, very interesting, is really a world known tournament. I think living here, a lot of people didn't know it, but when I went overseas to China, I was told by someone who was one of the in-laws that was really like a pro tennis player herself. And when they knew all about my career, they knew about the Manhattan Open. I had won the Manhattan Open. It was really a prestigious tournament. And I have a very interesting story to tell you about the Manhattan Open. One of them was before the Manhattan Open even started playing, I was told I had to go back to the U.S. Tennis Center, and I had to stop and check in there for my ranking check-in. So they made it easy. I went there and I drove up to the top player area, and a few players came out, and they call over to me. They go, "Hey, John, we're all signing up for the Manhattan Open this year. We're gonna play it, and we're gonna meet you in the finals. And it's gonna be really good. We'll have a lot of fun."
Hmm.
So I went back to play the tournament, and like over the next weeks and months, it came out that really they weren't able really to even make the finals at all. I think they were confident to say they were going to win and come and play me, but they couldn't make the finals. They unfortunately they they weren't able to really make it. And the Manhattan Open turned out to be such a big, important tournament at that point that I really got an idea of what was going on. Was that really to anyone that doesn't make the finals is really like under the 200th player. So really, for me to advance past that level and then win the Manhattan Open was really very prestigious, and that was very big. When I won the Manhattan Open, they had a big trophy there, photographs of me with the trophy. They're probably someplace, and so that was really big.
I want to find out, John, what I want to actually get in your head, what it felt like. So here you are, you're barely 20, and now you're surrounded by all of the best tennis players on the planet. Even still to the day, some of these names like John McEnroe and Boris Becker and on and on and on and on. When a new player would pop up or be in your circle, or they're going to say, "Hey, you're going to be playing this guy, or this guy's going to be watching you." Was it kind of a shock, like, "Oh my gosh, that guy, he's huge," or did it just become kind of a routine, like, "Oh yeah, yeah, John McEnroe, sent him in, I'll play him." What did it feel like back then?
Well, I think since I started playing as a junior, I got used to the idea of playing people who are usually big names, have good advertising, and are on television and things like that. It wasn't that a big surprise to me, really. I didn't think it was a big surprise, and I think there's always, like with pro playing, I think there's always this two thing that's very interesting about playing with the pro players. That I'm a pro player, a top pro player, and then a lot of times people might like read the newspaper or see a television clip, and there's like two different things. One is you would talk about someone on television that you would see on television, just like a TV show. And then of course I would then be really playing excuse me, playing on the court. So that I think that was very interesting, that kind of situation. So it didn't bother me at all. I was able to compete, and I was up with them, and I was really, as far as the tennis circuit is concerned, I was well known around the world. They all knew me by my regular name, that I was a tennis player, pro tennis player coming up. There was a number of other players around the world that, in fact, were well known the same way. That I was just told their names, and that they were playing great, that they were coming up. They weren't really even on television that much, and so there's a whole world of pro tennis playing, and people who are playing excellent, and their names were getting circulated around the world of being excellent tennis players, and that's really like something that then starts to surface in, like, say, Tennis Magazine, or you'd watch them on Saturday morning and things like that, and people always used to see me on Saturday morning television. They used to recognize me playing there. And I think they didn't make that big a thing about it. It was just very interesting, and so that was good. I think as far as like one name, when I first made the adult circuit rank of 500, and it just turned 18 years old, the coach of all the pros at the time, he assigned Ivan Lendl as my tennis instructor. So he was instructed to teach me all the basic things from going from a junior player to an adult player. And that's his job. He was assigned to me. At that time, Ivan Lendl was writing his book, Hitting Hot. And he had the manuscript for the book. He had the photographer down there, and the publisher was down there. So I was already learning about all different people in pro tennis. At the publisher tennis, they were taking pictures of me. I have all kinds of pictures playing at that time, just getting into the adult tennis ATP tennis circuit at that time. And so Ivan Lendl and myself, I learned tennis from him. He thought I was an excellent student. His comments were always like that I always listened to what he told me. Like he always used to have this term, like if he told me to jump, he's like, how high type of story. And so I always did excellent listening to him. I think one thing about learning someone's tennis skills and instructions is I had to learn all the basic requirements that were necessary for the adult tennis. There were some more advanced things I had to learn, and things like that, just so it looks good. A lot of it had to do with looking good as an adult player, that you're not playing too young, you're playing more of an adult player. And that was very interesting, and I learned from that. I think one thing also was, since I had my own style of playing, some things that I learned, I still had to make my own adjustments. I wasn't like a machine where I would say Ivan Lendl would teach me how to hit the ball, and then I would just do it. I would really have to improvise on everything he said.
He's huge. I mean, even to the day when you talk about tennis, Ivan Lendl, huge. I know it was a long time ago. Is there any tip that stands out in your mind, John, that he gave you? Something that he would say, hey, when you hit the ball, do it this way. Anything that you remember that came from Ivan Lendl, or even John McEnroe, any of the major players that resonated in your head and stuck in your head? It's like, yeah, you know what? I got to do it that way.
Yeah, I think remembering his lessons, I think a lot of his lessons were really just to hit the ball confidently. Really take his lessons and really fully trust what he's saying, and fully hit the ball really hard with the instructions he's telling me. And then from there, also, I think he was even suggesting the same idea, to take the lessons and then you improvise on them yourself to fit your own style. So from his lessons, I still had to adjust them. Now, I think one thing about Ivan Lendl, those lessons, what happened, they had him come down to my court right there in Jericho. And this course, like I was saying, they were very valuable. Those lessons were very valuable. They were paid directly through the U.S. Tennis Center, going through it went through the coach of all of the pro players in the world come to the U.S. Tennis Center, and they have the one at the Flushing Center has their own coach there, and then under the coach was the captain. At that location was Vitas Gerulaitis, and then from there they passed it over to Ivan Lendl. Then Ivan Lendl was instructing me how to play to make all those adjustments to make the adult league, and that set up the next step after that set up. After Ivan Lendl, since I achieved so high in the athletic test, which I described before, I had the highest number of all the pro players. I went from Ivan Lendl. They passed me over to Bjorn Borg. So right before the national tournament, they passed me over to Bjorn Borg as my tennis teacher, and then from there I went in to start to play over to the national tournament, and that led over to the Davis Cup. I mean, that's really was, and then in between that there were all kinds of tournaments. I mean, it was like I think like 1 month was like equivalent to like a year, because I was playing all the tournaments. They even had me playing with they had all the females come down, and they had all the different tournaments heading over. Like some of them would leave and head over to play the French Open.
Unbelievable.
And then so that was really good. So that was really just to give you an idea of what was happening at that time. So they had Ivan Lendl, who I think Ivan Lendl at that time was really like the premier player there. He was like a #1 player, winning. I think he had just won like the French Open or something. It was really big.
They were all huge, and we're just about out of time. But for anybody that's watching, listening, hearing those names, if it's not resonating with you, I'm telling you, they're huge back in the day. It's almost as if, let's say, John, you were a musician and somebody said, yeah, over there, go play with Sting. Oh, when you're done playing over there, hit up Paul McCartney over there. When you finish, Paul, done with Paul, go play with Billy Joel over there. This is the magnitude of.
I think around the world, everyone knew my name like a big star. They knew me in Europe. They knew me in Australia. They all knew me. My name. They knew it was just time to surface. In fact, Ivan Lendl was trying to help get my name into like Tennis Magazine.
Wow.
He was trying to promote my name a little. He was trying to get my name listed with a nice ranking and everything. I think.
Now I know that you went under a professional tennis player's name, and I know there was a few of them that you used at that time. Was it John Vanderbilt? Were you using that name? I think the other one was Valentine.
No, I was just using my regular natural name, John Riggio.
Wow, amazing.
The first name as a junior that I was using as an alliance name was Jack Racket, and but at that time I was just using my natural name, and they were trying to submit it with my natural name.
Amazing. We are just about out of time, but just fascinating. This blows me away. Just hearing those names. I remember back in the day, those were the names when you watched like ABC Sports, you would hear those names every single day, especially when it was around the time of major tennis tournaments. If you want to check out any of what John has done in the past, he's got a lot of it on his website. And of course, as an architect in the New York City area, you can see more there at John Riggio, RIGGIO.com. As always, John, fascinating talking with you. I could go on forever. It's like,
thanks a lot, Steve.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.